Okay, let's get to it. If my mic works, please. Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of Future Group Friday. I gotta go look up when this actually started because I keep wondering how many months it's been now. It feels like it just is still a recent thing, but I've been doing it for at least 3-4 months now, right? So, for those of you who don't know what this is a weekly stream that I've been hosting for, as I mentioned, a few months now, talking about development progress updates from the Future Group, just kind of everything going on behind the scenes for the game TagPro. If you don't know what the game TagPro is, it is a free-to-play capture the flag game. You can find it online at tagpro.gg. There are 4v4 games of about 6 minutes long, and it's just like that game you played back in elementary school. Capture the flag, bring it back to your side. There's a tutorial on the homepage if you'd like to check it out, but tagpro.gg to find that. For my role, my name is Cheese Doodle, and I kind of am in charge of all the organization, I guess you can call it, a development team, the Future Group, kind of organizing what we're going to work on, when we're going to work on it, things like that. And so today we're going to start off by talking through things that have been happening for the last week or so from our last stream from a development standpoint, then some other non-development updates to give you all, talking about the timeline for the next release. Then we will go through all of the feedback we've received from the last week, and also the candy board alternative that we have on Discord. We'll go through that as well for the first time, which should be good. And we will finish up as usual with a feature building session where we talk through a thing that someone has mentioned that might need a little bit more detail before it could ever be planned or built into the game. So that's the rough overview. If you have any questions along the way, you can always feel free to drop a question in the chat here. Or if you are watching this later and you would like me to answer a question on stream the next time, you can also fill out this form, which I have pinned in the chat, and you'll find that in the Reddit comment section and also the YouTube description. So feel free to fill that form out. I will answer any questions in that form on the next stream. Grant says, July 27? What? That, I don't believe that, honestly. That's a way. That's a crazy amount of time to be doing this. Well, here we are. Let's keep it going. So, starting a week from today, it's going to put us back at April 3rd. So let's talk about what has changed since then. The biggest thing and the main focal point of the next release I've mentioned a few times at this point is the shop, the in-game shop with the Flare additions that we have on the way. That received a couple updates on the 3rd in the very early morning, so I talked about those already, but I put my review in on the 4th, and then the review notes were finalized on the 5th. So the shop is actually past review, which is super exciting because that means it's ready for testing next. So we've got you build it, someone looks at it, you put it to staging, we test it on staging, and then we're ready for a release. So in terms of when that's actually going to get done, probably closer to the end of this month. There are a few other things that we want to wrap into that same release. I talked about them about 3 or 4 weeks ago on stream. It's a big slew of smaller changes that are like quality of life things, informational fixes, little bug fixes. So we're going to try to get all that wrapped up by the end of this month. But the shop itself, the big focal point, is done. It has passed review, and it's just waiting. The only thing that has to happen is final decision on the exact pricing of flares, and let's talk about that for a moment actually, because we have to figure out how many coins does it actually take to earn a flare, how many coins do you receive for doing certain things, and that's a hard thing to balance when you're starting basically from scratch. So it's been a little tough. I have an ongoing conversation right now with a couple of Steerco members. I need to get back to them on that, but what we're looking at for an initial starting point is the rank points system from casual games, the old rank point system, which if you look at any public game, when it ends, you will see at the end of that game, you receive a certain number of rank points if you were logged in and have stats on. So the initial plan is to build off of that rank point system where these are the coins that you receive. Instead of trying to build in a whole extra coin system on top of this already existing system, just use the one that exists and use that as our basis or a baseline for where we go from here. In terms of how to pick a price for the shop itself, two things to consider. The first is that we are adding a lot of flares, so the expectation is not that you're able to earn everything right away. It's hopefully going to take a while. Maybe for some players, like these kinds of players, maybe they get there a little bit sooner than others. But I don't want it to be a situation where we add in 50 flares and then 75% of the active player base has them all in a month, right? Like that's useless. But you also don't want it to be that you play a couple times a week and you can never earn a flare. So how do you balance those two things? So what we're roughly looking at now is how many games ish do you need to play to earn a common flare, to earn a rare flare, to earn an uncommon flare. Sorry, got the ordering wrong there. But that's how we're trying to work backwards from that and say, okay, if you need to play 200 games to, these aren't final numbers, but 200 games to earn a common flare, how many coins should you be earning per game to get to that point? And so we're trying to work our way backwards from the finish line kind of thing. So that hopefully will be wrapped up by next week. That is the first thing that needs to get actually finalized before the shop can go live. The second part is the text itself on the flares. I think I've mentioned this a couple times now, but I was able to get in touch with another community member who I trust for this kind of thing to review our answers for the little extra text that we have here, because they're fun. I want them to be cute, and I don't want them to all just be like, oh, you earned this for spending coins in the shop, because that's a dumb text to have on 50 flares. So that should be done in the next week or two, hopefully, and then we'll go live. MC says, I'm hoping the flares are really expensive. I can't tell if that's a joke or not. Yelpa, 10 stream streak. Look at him go. Welcome back. I'm sorry you don't have anything better to do on your Fridays. MC, could you clarify if that's a joke or not? Because I don't actually know what to do with that feedback. I hope flares are really expensive. The third thing that I forgot to mention is that flares are not the only thing that we are adding in, and games are not the only mechanic that is going to be eligible to earn coins. So we have to consider that even though we have a whole system where you can buy things, the expectation is that there will be more things in the future. So it is actually better to put things on the more expensive side, because if we add in all these extra things, like extra things you can earn, we're also going to be adding in all these extra mechanics, things that you can do to earn more coins. So you don't want it to be a super, super balanced system with the assumption that you only get coins after games, and then you add in 7 or 8 other things that you can do to earn coins, and now all of a sudden you've dwarfed the coins earned from games because there are so many other avenues, and now that balance is completely thrown off. So it's probably going to start off on the somewhat dauntingly expensive side, because that gives us a lot more wiggle room to start to add in other incentives to do certain things, like your daily challenges, your stat-based bonuses, your rewards for doing, like we could even award coins for like competitive league. Like there's a lot we can do if we decide that we want to do it, but all of that kind of banks on the fact that it's not super, super easy to earn these flares right from the very beginning. So if you see that and you're like, wow, this is too expensive, I'm never going to get one, just give us some time, please, and we'll get that balance a little bit more worked out as we go. I'm not joking. It's better if they're expensive. Making them hard to get makes them cooler. It makes it more fun to work towards them. Yeah, then that's kind of the idea that we're thinking about as well. So I'm glad you said that, because we can't build everything around the expectation that everyone's going to have everything. There are some people who are going to get everything, but it is better if some of these flares become somewhat exclusive, so that it is something that you can wrap and show off and all that. So hopefully it goes well. The one issue with it is that you can't go backwards. Once you've given someone a price and they buy it, you can't say, oh, actually we're raising the price and take away their flare. Like it's done. So we can't we can't go too soft at the very beginning. Probably good to at least discuss which way you'd rather err on the pricing from the start. Too many people got this easily versus people are mad they played a ton for this. I don't work for FIFA. No, I do not work for FIFA. Thank you for clarifying. People are mad because they played a ton for this, but now it's way easier to get. I think I prefer that second one, actually. It doesn't sound very good on paper, but the idea is that it's not a single flare that they're earning. They get a random selection every week, and they can pick from, if they can afford any of those flares, from that selection. So it's not that you have access to the entire list of new flares at the same time, which I think is going to somewhat help with that, because if you work really hard for a certain flare and you get it, yeah, no, I see your point where you're like, this person got it for nothing now. But I do think that we're going to be okay, because when we're adding in new mechanics, we'll have a foundation at that point. So we can say that, oh, you played X number of games for X number of weeks and you earned this flare because of it. Now we're adding in another mechanic where you can do something else and also earn that flare. I don't think that really detracts, because that person got the flare first. They got to show it off before anybody else did. It doesn't detract from the other people who are now like doing other things on top of it. I don't know. I see your point. I'm sort of thinking on my feet here. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my answer. I think I prefer that people have to try a little bit harder to get stuff at the very beginning, and then we make it a little bit easier to do stuff as you go. Because otherwise, yeah, the opposite is too many people get the flare, and then we make it impossible to get them later on, which is just kind of dumb. So I'm sticking with that, and I'm going to move on. That's a wrinkle. How frequent is the rotation? It's going to be every week. Every week you get a new shop, and you can pick the things you like from the shop. All right, back to development stuff. Shop is good to go, pending those things. Then on Thursday, so yesterday, we had I don't want to call it a hot fix necessarily, because it was a bit more involved than that, but we were looking at the ranked leaderboard, and we were looking at the placement of players on the ranked leaderboard. What up, nerds? Hi, Fly. And we were looking at the players who were at the top, the players who were at the bottom. We were looking behind the scenes at the stats that they had earned to get to that point, basically. Like, how many games did they win to get to position 6 or whatever it was. So we were looking at all of that together, and it just didn't quite add up based on something. We couldn't figure out why it was wrong. It just, something didn't seem quite right. Like, the players you would expect to be at the top were toward the top, but they were below players who didn't have that many games, but were on like a quick hot streak or something, and they had jumped to the top. And so we were looking at the momentum system that we have. And when I say we, this is mostly Orchid, so I'm not going to have a ton of detail on this. If you want to talk more about this, I would recommend reaching out to Black Orchid. But players who had won a quick spurt of games were getting momentum that was carrying them well into the top of the leaderboard, even though they weren't performing at a top of the leaderboard quality level. And so when we looked at the actual numbers behind the scenes, we realized this all ties back, in my opinion, to the season reset, which is, I mentioned before, was broken because we had accidentally marked all players as active. So the crunch down that we do didn't quite crunch as much as it usually would. And because of that, we have a system at the start of the season that I think I've mentioned before, where you cannot earn flares for the first 2 weeks. And with that 2-week check is also a check on momentum, which is designed to let things kind of be the Wild West a little bit, but then clamp down as the season becomes more established. I'm not explaining this well. Basically, it should be hard to get to the top of the leaderboard, but it should be hard to stay there as well. I think it's more volatile at the start of the season versus later in the season. If you're performing really well, it's expected that you continue to climb up as you continue to perform well. And because we didn't contract everything down as much as expected, that 2-week period ended up being too long to allow things to be so chaotic. And so players who were playing a lot of games were more likely than not to kind of get shifted towards the top of the leaderboard because of that uncertainty. And so we had to go back from a week after the season started and look at all the games from a week after the season started to now, basically, and then recalculate those with consideration for the messed up expansion. So we basically clamped down on that uncertainty for that week, reran every single game's post-game calculation, and got new scores based on that calculation, so that the players who were actually winning a bunch of games were the players who ended up toward the top of the leaderboard. So in the future, I think we're going to keep that at a week because things did shake out faster than we expected in the first place. Like, players who are good are ending up showing that they are good sooner than we thought they would. We were thinking that a 2-week period would be needed to let everything kind of sift out. It's so hard to explain when you don't have the actual numbers in front of you. it's okay for bad players to win some games at the start of the season and end up toward the top of the leaderboard. It's not good for those players to win like 3 games in a row and jump into first place. That's the problem that we were addressing. We think we solved it, and you can see the leaderboard now based on that fix. I'm going to leave it at that. Again, if you want to talk about this more, talk to Orchid, please, because not my territory necessarily. If I come 10 coins short of getting the coolest flare, how long do you have to wait for it to come back? Yeah, it's gonna be a while. I mean, you can, yeah, we'll talk about that more, but it's not gonna be more than months, I think. Definitely not years. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fine. So anyway, that fix went in. That's all done. Good to go. Then we have a back-end fix that's gonna help us just with database population for developers, which just helps us with testing. And then we got another complaint about the Rainbow Road that I'll talk about with our feedback. But we have a fix coming in that ended up starting about a year ago, I think Bash noticed, where Pixie.js had a change to the way that their, what do you call them? Sprites fade out if they are set to fade. And so our splats tiles aren't actually fading the way that they're supposed to be. Splats used to fade out after somebody pops, but now they just kind of stay forever. I don't think I have splats in this texture pack. And so we found the fix for that, and we're just going to put it back in, and now splats won't last forever, which is good, because they weren't supposed to in the first place. Who still uses splats? I feel like I do, but I don't know why. Maybe I'm crazy. I like splats when I'm watching a stream. I think it's fun to see that. But yeah, they're going to fade out now. They're not going to stay forever, which was never the intention. Yappa uses splats. That's all you need to know. So that brings us to today. That's everything that was actually pushed. There was one other thing in progress, which was my project for the week, which was... No, Fly, that was entirely the right decision on the shop, because we were one of the biggest problems we were having with the shop was how do we display a list of 50 plus things that you can buy that are all just different images. And it's really, really hard to come up with a way to do that. It doesn't look absolutely god awful. Like if you look at the texture packs page, it would be basically this, but for a single 16 by 16 image every single time. So you have this long list of, you know, like squinting to see how the, it was not good. It was not good presentation. It was not good community engagement, if you will. It was just like a bit daunting, a bit overwhelming, and not really fun, not engaging. So when you have a smaller rotation, yes, it's worse because you don't have access to everything at once, but it gets people to actually check the shop. It gets people to actually see a flare and be like, oh, I want that flare, because it calls attention to it. It's not just mixed into a giant crowd of other flares. Flares are also going to be player specific, so your shop might not be the same as somebody else's shop. I think what we did was you are guaranteed 3 common flares, 1 uncommon flare, and 1 rare flare in your shop. And then there's a weighted random for what the 6th flare will be, common, uncommon, or rare. So some people might have 2 rare flares in a week. Some people might only have 1. And a lot more chance for people to talk about something that's actually happening on their personal account, which I think is going to be better from a community standpoint, just because it encourages people to be engaged with the game, which is kind of the idea. So we will see how that plays out. But I'm very, very, now that I've seen it, very, very against just a giant list of everything that you can do at once, because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. They do fade out if they're on top of the flag, so I always assumed that was intentional. Huh. Well, we could add it back in later if you like it a lot, but I think we'll keep it like that for now. So that, oh yeah, the thing I was working on, sorry, keep getting distracted, was Fly had mentioned last week on the feedback tab that if we're going to have this new display, this is the old display in front of us right now, but if we're going to have this new display here, which shows the Discord forum that I'll show you guys in a minute, it would be nice to have the ability to submit posts, and I was fully on board with that idea, but the thing we were using did not support that. But I looked into how to actually build a bot that will be able to plug into a website and submit things for you, and I've been working on that basically for the entire week, trying to get that up and running. So I've got it going. It works pretty well, actually. I'm surprised. The one downside is that Discord does not support custom name submissions on the bot. So I have a feedback bot. Its name is feedback bot. When it posts a submission to the forum, the post will be by feedback bot. It won't be by whoever posted it. So what I'm doing is putting the player's reserve name in the title of the post. I think that'll work fine, but it's not quite what we were hoping it would be. I think I can actually show you guys this real quick. This is a test server that I've got going, but you can see I've got my feedback bot. It's offline right now, and I've got the widget bot, which is what we're using to actually display this on the website. Again, this is just a view of my Discord right now, but what I'm doing is taking your reserve name, and I'm logged into Ball's account for some reason. I don't know why on my local, but their reserve name is Ball, and then it'll put your title of your post and then the text, and you can see it's from feedback bot. So the author of the post is still the bot, but it'll at least have your name attached to it. And there's nothing that can be done to fix this. This is a Discord limitation. There's nothing that they offer that lets us modify that. I will say this might actually be a good precursor to allowing Discord account linking. I don't want to go down that path right this second, but it is possible that we could maybe add you into the thread when you create it, because it knows that it's your account when it gets there. So I'll play around with it and see if there's anything I can do with it, but the titles in the Discord forum are kind of short. Not sure. Couldn't fit the full. Why can't I read this? The titles on the Discord forum are kind of short, FYI. Not sure how long, but I couldn't fit the full title of server. Oh, you mean the Discord limits how long your post can be? I will just match that input on the bot. I think I have it at a 50 character limit right now. But I can match exactly whatever Discord's is. I'll look into that. Let me make a note of that real quick. Thank you, Grant. Character limit. Got it. Okay. It's a good idea, even though I know I'm going to feel bad if I miss a cool flare. It'll come back, MC. It'll come back. I thought there was something else I did from a development standpoint, but I can't find it now, so I'm gonna move on in about 10 seconds. Oh, he's just talking about the meeting that we had this weekend. A full developer meeting is happening on Sunday, talking about long-term implementation of some, I mentioned this in the past already, it's some back-end changes to the code that we use that'll help with testing, help with just ease of onboarding new developers, things like that, and hopefully future-proof things a little bit better as well. So full meeting on Sunday, and then we'll also talk about the timeline for the release at that meeting for all the reviews that we have to get in. That was it. $12 characters for character name. Oh yeah, yep. Good point, Grant. Good point. 100. Okay, that's definitely more than I have right now, so that should be okay. But on that note, let's talk about feedback that we have received this week, starting with new. What have we talked about? Talked about that. That's new. That's new. Okay. Ball of Fame Flare. Sorry, it's so tiny. Honor the greats of this game with a little treat. This is something I've mentioned a few times in the past with regards to leagues and tournaments and anything that's kind of outside the official sphere. We actually talked about this on stream last week, funny enough, from a timing standpoint. So we were looking at the profile and what kind of awards or accolades, or pick a word, could we offer to players to kind of highlight the contributions they have actually contributed to TagPro. And so the form that we have here talks through the categories that we decided on, which was maps, music, and texture packs, basically the creative things that you can do that you'd like to have displayed on your profile. And then we followed that up and said, can we talk about unofficial things like your competitive leagues, if you're a champion, if you're a captain, if you're a commissioner, if you do anything for the social media team, if you run tournaments, like what sort of recognition could we do for that? And we kind of went down that path and decided that it's not super viable with the current setup that we have. And the answer that I landed on for that is that the leagues have their own sort of, what's the right word here? I guess environment, if you will. Like the leagues care about the leagues more than anybody else cares about the leagues, which is okay. That the leagues also award things like Ball of Fame within the league. And so the league is responsible for all this. The league promotes all of this. The people who are happy that they've earned a certain thing for this are happy for the sake of the league. Like it's all focused on the league. It's not TagPro necessarily. And so when the league has these extra accolades, they highlight them in their own way. You've got like the info hubs. You've got TagPro League where they put all of the service records that you have. Like there are places already where this stuff is shown and is talked about, and I just don't really see a bridge to put that onto the main TagPro site until those leagues have gotten a lot closer to the game. But in the past, I've talked about why it's better for the leagues to be a little bit separated, to give them a lot more freedom to do things like try new settings, to mess around with the in-game kind of experience, but also like the onboarding process for new players. It's the leagues need to be a little bit more dynamic than the game is. The game's a little bit slower, a little bit more lumbering because it's just got more to consider, and the leagues need to be a little more fresh, a little more active. And I just don't think that we can quite bring the two together with the current state of the game. And so Ball of Fame kind of follows that same line of thinking, that it would be cool to show that, but it doesn't really have a place, because if you show one unofficial thing, you've kind of opened the gates to any unofficial thing. Like who decides, and this actually happened in MLTP, who decides that the Ball of Fame is legit? Like what is the Ball of Fame? You have your MLTP Ball of Fame. There's been a 3-year-long conversation about the NLTP Ball of Fame. And then there was a whole falling out between MLTP and OLTP, whether or not those players could be added to the Ball of Fame. And so even the leagues can't decide what the Ball of Fame is and have a consensus on that. I feel like it's really messy for us to then stick our hands in it and say, okay, we're going to recognize either one or all or some of these Ball of Fames. And like, there's just, you're opening a lot of doors at once that eventually could be opened, but I just don't really see a benefit to doing that right this minute at all. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a hard thing to kind of summarize, but yeah, it's not the kind of thing that we could just add in a flare for and just have no issue with that at all. It would cause a lot of problems, in my opinion. So I don't think I want to answer this just because I can't. How do I summarize that? I'm going to DM Rain after this and just send him a clip to what I just said, because I don't think I can summarize that well. After that, we've got show an icon next to players who disable chat. That seems reasonable. As someone who completely disable chat, incoming and outgoing, to kind of show that you have your chat muted. Yeah, okay. So they want some kind of way for teammates to know, or all players to know, that they have their chat disabled. I think that's a very reasonable thing to request. So let's make a ticket for that real quick. Where did my... There you are. Okay. Indicate when a player has disabled chat. So the first thing that I'm thinking about with this one is, how do we not have that conflict with the visuals that we use for personal mutes, which is the name is italicized, and I think that's it. At the very, very start of personal mute, some of you may remember, we had added an icon to the scoreboard that was a little microphone or speaker notification, like a what do you call it? Hello, eyeball. It was like a megaphone kind of thing. It looked like one of these little thingies. It was next to your name, and then if you had that person personally muted, it would cross it out so that it was not. It was like this one right here. it was this, and then we crossed it out if you had them muted like this. I think it was actually this exact image on the profile on the scoreboard. So people didn't like that. They didn't think it looked very good. And so the easiest option would be to do that, but I think that would cause confusion with the personal mute, and also people didn't like it already, so it wouldn't be good. I think that my first reaction is to no indicator at all when a player does not have, or when a player has chat enabled. Only show something when chat is disabled, because I think part of the problem was that you had all of these icons that 99% of the time were going to just be that icon, because very few people actually use personal mutes at a cadence that is going to affect the scoreboard game to game. So you have like maybe one person every couple of games, but most of the time it's just this big ugly thing on your scoreboard that nobody wants to be looking at. So I think if we only show it for players who have it disabled, you don't have that problem of excess noise of all this information that you don't need, basically, because you're assuming, unless you know otherwise, that their chat is enabled. So this is only showing when it's not enabled. And I think that would be okay in that situation to use that speaker again, because it's just the one. And now the problem is the italics. Is that going to be confusing, or is anyone going to even care if that, like, personal mutes already convert a name to italics? Well, oh, that's right. They're italicized and grayed out. So we wouldn't want to conflict with that at all. So I don't think we touch the name. I don't think we mess with the color. I don't think we mess with anything name related at all. My problem is that if you have an italicized name and you see a microphone that's crossed out next to it, maybe you would click on that name expecting the microphone to not be crossed out anymore, but it would stay crossed out because that's them applying the mute. So it's where the information comes from. The name is something you have applied to that player, but this icon would be something that player has applied to themselves. And putting those next to each other, I think, is a little bit misleading, but I don't know where else you would even put it. Well, I guess for now I can make the ticket and just say, when a player has disabled their own chat through profile settings, indicate as such, wow, on the scoreboard in game so that other players do not attempt to send them messages and expect a reply. Yeah, I don't know. I like this idea. I just can't figure out a way that actually makes me happy to add it. Because you can't put, I was thinking like next to their name in chat, but they're not going to be chatting because their chat's disabled, so you can't put it there. Is the problem the personal mute feature? Is that what needs to change? You could have two different kinds of speakers, one for personal mute, one for self mute, but even, I think the easiest path forward is just to add the icon if they're muted and not worry about it. What about at the end of the scoreboard? There's an extra row there. Maybe we could use it. Let me see if I agree with that statement. At the end of the scoreboard, you're saying like over here? This is like the ban mute button. So this button does exist in games because it's the report/mute. Huh. For those of you who didn't know the initial personal mute, it was like right here was where we had all of those little icons. It's uncommon enough that people will figure out what it means, not confuse it. And we could also add a tooltip, I guess, that when you hover over it, it says chat player has disabled chat or something like that. Yeah, okay, let's move on from this. Tooltip over the icon with player has disabled chat. Or maybe just chat disabled. Chat muted. Chat muted. Chat disabled. Eh. Potato, tomato. An I with a slash through it. That implies that their screen is off. Which is maybe how a lot of people are playing pubs based on my games the last couple of days, but I don't think that conveys that they're muted. We could look at Font Awesome real quick. What if you don't want people to know you have chat muted? I don't know if that's really protected information. Is there a reason you wouldn't want people to know that? No, Fly, this is an indicator to the rest of the team. Oh, I see what you're saying. They couldn't see chat. Yeah, I don't know. When I think of the eye, though, the first thing that comes to mind isn't chat, right? This is like we're using this icon already for like the return from spectating button. No, you're not I'm not saying you're an idiot. I'm just saying it's like, I don't think that conveys the right information is all. Versus like one of these, I think this more indicates that that person is not using chat. And that's even better than a microphone, because microphone makes me think sound, audio, or not microphone, megaphone, speaker, whatever. You get the point. Yeah, I like this actually. I think Oddball's got the winner. Let's go with that one. I just want FA comment slash. Okay, let's move on. This is going to be a enhancement. See the monkey covering its eyes. This is a low effort. This is I think a medium priority. It's not low priority because it's not like the experimental group feature thing that might get added to competitive in 9 years. It's more of like this is useful information for people to have, but it's not like we need this right now or else kind of thing. That's my assessment. Feel free to disagree. On the scoreboard. Liddy, I want to give you one more chance to explain why you wouldn't want people knowing you have chat muted. Otherwise, I don't really see a reason to protect that information. Like, it's good for people to know that you're not seeing their messages if you've chosen to disable all of them. It's not personal to you. Like with a personal mute, you wouldn't want that because now you know, okay, this person has a problem with me and maybe there's something else there. I don't care about your personal beef. I don't want to dig into that. But when it's you just disable it for everybody, I think it's just good general information to know that this person is not receiving messages in the chat. So we're going to create that and we're going to go back here. Mark this as planned. Ticket has been submitted internally. It's in my personal settings. Nobody gets to see like who I have personal muted. I don't have any personal beef, just asking questions. I think I kind of touched on that. Personal mute it's personal. So I think that is information that you wouldn't want shared because you've made a decision that affects somebody specifically versus you just choosing to do something that everyone is affected by. Turn chat off for a while, then I can still what people said. You can see in the replays, yeah. Not Fly. Don't go back in the replays. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just play. Discord flare for verifying your account in the official TagPro server. Oh, look at that. Very timely, MC. We have a ticket for this already. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I think we have tickets for 2 different linkings. I think Reddit also has one created. Yeah. So, question for you, Fly. You just added in flare verification, or was it for your was it mltp.gg? Is that the? Do a quick shout out for that. I just wanted to take a look at how you are. This is mltp.gg for those who don't know. Apparently, whatever you said is censored in the chat. Sorry. Let me see if I can undo that. No, I cannot. Sorry, I don't know how this automod thing works anymore. Just the URL. Oh well. While we're here, this is mltp.gg. Check it out if you'd like. It's got a whole bunch of competitive stuff going on. This is going to be eventually, hopefully, a replacement for the information hub that we have been using since I was on the CRC, which would be this big ugly spreadsheet that we have spent a lot of time refining and improving. But anyway, this site, the reason I bring it up, has added in, I believe, Discord, or not Discord, TagPro verification. But I was wondering, Fly, if you're doing anything from a Discord standpoint to verify. Is if you've looked into that, I would definitely want to piggyback on that. I know that the TTOC bot links TagPro to Discord accounts. So if we could maybe standardize that whole flow, like if we could, as TagPro, offer the ability to verify accounts, it would save a lot of trouble for people who are trying to have their own sort of verification thing going on. But we do have a ticket for this, MC, is what I'm getting at. And I think the plan is to have a flare offered as well. You're going to build a Discord bot, though. It's more work than I was hoping it would be. But let me know how that goes. I think it's a good call on your part. Planned. This is internally tracked. So I'll let you know. Thank you. All right. I think that's all from a candy board standpoint. Nope, we got a bug report. Joiner. I had both CTF and NF unchecked and it put me in a game. What? There is no way to have both of them unchecked. If you clicked off of both of them, it's going to put you in a capture the flag game always. You can't be in the joiner and not queued for anything. That's just not possible. So if you are in the joiner, you are being considered for matches. If you do not want to get a match, we now offer a spectate page. Yeah, leave it at that. Mini games fiend, they can just do the Oceania thing that we talked about, which is slightly disrespectful, but it works. All right, let's go over to Discord because we do have some posts in the feedback channel, which is nice to see. Get shop tag coins for joining the Discord. Maybe. I mean, that's the nice thing about the shop is we can incentivize kind of whatever we want now, as long as it's within the balance that we've talked about for the long term. Like we don't want to add in 1,000 different things so that you earn all the flares in a week, but we don't want to just have it sitting and doing nothing either. So we'll try to balance that out. I think that things like one-time things like joining a Discord or linking an account is pretty easy to have an award for because there's no way to exploit that and have like 1,000 coins based on that. You just do it once and it's done. So I think we can definitely go down that path soon. Maybe we can stop the buttons from being unchecked. We do, Oddball. It takes one cycle, but it'll check CTF for you if that happens. At least it should. If it's not doing that, then let me know. But it should be doing that. But you can still get matched before that cycle completes. All right, where's a week ago? This is the last one that Grant brought over, and this is the first one that we received from John. Is this zoomed in enough for you guys? How do I get this in like a full view? You know, like how do you get it to pop over like this view? How do I do that? Ah! Am I crazy? Is there not a open in full view? Aha! Okay. I would like to lower or mute volume for a game in some sessions before audio begins playing. This would need to be on the home screen joiner. Oh, I feel like we had a similar request for this not too long ago. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. So this would be, what's the keyword I would use here? Volume, maybe? So we've got a ticket to create volume sliders for in-game music and sound effects. And then we also had something to do with the launcher where we wanted players to be able to adjust their volume and then have that change how loud the Bing sound is when they get a ranked game in the launcher. I guess we don't have a ticket for this. I'm sorry. So let's make one. Allow sound. Oh, sound maybe? Yelp, are you still here? I could have sworn we had a ticket for this, but I don't see one. I'm just going to make a ticket, and then if it's a duplicate, we will fix that later. Ranked alarm is so loud, I'd be in favor. Yeah, it would be matching whatever your in-game sounds are, I think. I think right now it just plays the max volume because it doesn't have any sort of tie in to your in-game volume. So we're going to add in allow volume slider updates before entering, or from the profile. That's good, isn't it? Not if you decide it's too loud and mute the notification and now nobody's getting any sound at all, so you increase the likelihood someone misses a game because they thought it was too annoying. You need to balance that for sure. Oh, and now I can do relevant Discord feedback. Relevant feedback link. Aha! I think I'm going to do one of those though. Allow the volume slider to be updated without entering. Oop, I need water. Wow, that came out of nowhere. Sorry. Updated without entering a game. This could probably be done alongside the other thing I was just mentioning. The big yellow banner is good enough. I think that's a personal preference thing. I'd like to give people the ability to choose what they want on that one. I think this would be tied into 303. May be appropriate to complete with 303 and or 713. 713 is a really funny one. We have a very, very old set of code that we found that in a TagPro game is trying to bring your browser into focus, which is relevant for the, like if you're in multiple tabs, you have a different window open or a different monitor, it'll kind of say, oh no, this is the most important thing right now, pay attention to me. And the way that we did that, and when I say we, this was done years ago, like 2015 maybe, was to find an element on the page and then make it the focus of the page. So that when I say focus, think about when you press tab on a certain page. Oh, sorry, I still have Discord in front of all this, don't I? When you press tab on a page, it'll like highlight a certain thing. That's the thing that is focused on the page at that moment. So we have a way of automatically focusing on a certain element. The thing that we picked, again, not me, but we picked was the volume slider for some reason. And I don't know when that decision was made or why. Again, it was a long time ago, but it's causing issues because now that focus is not the actual game. So we have a ticket to just stop doing that because it doesn't actually work like that anymore. That's not how browsers even function these days. So it's an old thing that we have to get rid of. But I think it might be a good time to clean up all of that at the same time. But this would be a enhancement. It would be a not high or low effort, pretty standard effort. And this could also be medium or low priority. Probably low priority. Modifying, so it's pretty easy to modify sound when you get into a game, but it would be nice to be able to do it before then. Okay, got that. Not as helpful in your tab. Yeah. Okay, back to Discord. So let's say ticket status. Can I not update the tags from in here? Oh, that's obnoxious. Okay, edit tags. This is a feature request, and this is planned. I need to get my copy paste stuff. Allows. Okay. Boom. And now, did my Spotify just crash? What is this? Or my headset just died maybe? Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. I'm getting like a really bad sound in my headset. Sorry about that. Okay. I have a headset that I very much enjoy. It's got a replaceable battery, so when it dies, you can swap it out. But it didn't warn me that it was dying this time. It just kind of died. So sorry about that. I'm here. So if you care about that specific thing that John submitted, just for those who are new to the forums thing, you can go to the feedback channel on the Discord, and you can find this thread by either typing it in or you can look it up, whatever works for you. And you can follow it. So you can click on this over here. You can right click on the thing and you can follow the post, and it'll get you notifications anytime we update the status of that post, even in a long time from now. So if you want to know if that ever gets changed from planned to in progress, go ahead and follow that in the forum. Add progress bar for the season flare. Ooh, that's pretty. I like that a lot. I think I'm just going to yoink that directly into the... when is the candy board going away? The candy board, no D. Candy board is going away in the next release, which is going to be decided by the shop, but hopefully the end of the month is when we're going to be doing that. And no, we're never going to go back to the candy board. It's gone. Why does my neck itch? Yep, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know why that's happening to you. I hope it stops. This is add more appealing progress bar to seasonal flares. So I don't know how to like show you guys that I'm typing a thing, but also show the Discord at the same time. I like the candy board too, don't get me wrong. It was really good for what it was doing. We just got priced out of the free plan, so it doesn't work anymore. If it was still working, 100% on board with continuing to use it. But no, oddball, it was more than that. It was like $300 a month for our current uses, which is just, I can't wrap my head around it, but whatever. Oh, filter caught that one. All right, what was I doing here? Relevant feedback post. Just going to copy this image completely over. title. I don't know. It kind of gets the point across, right? Color scheme might be a bit of a problem with this one. So looking at the preview here, obviously it's very pretty. I like it a lot. It works really well with this flare. I think the idea is that it's fading from red to green, and green is when you've actually earned it, which I don't think we have to worry about the color scheme. I just want to make sure that we double check color scheme. Not all flares will be red like the Phoenix. Phoenix, is that right? Yeah. Okay, this is going to be an enhancement. This is a slight rewrite. And this is a low effort, lower medium priority. What do you think? Let's go medium. Maybe low, because this works fine. So I think it's hard to say that it's important, but I think it's nice. Okay. All that for a candy board. Sad. All right, back to Discord. Yeah, I don't like this as much, but we'll make it work. All right, I want to copy this. See, this is the part that gets me. Like, why does that thread not open anymore? Where did it go? Come back. Progress bar. I have to open it first, and then I have to click up here, and then I have to open in full view, and then I can paste in. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is marked as a feature request. Now I can mark it as planned. And I can send that. Okay. Whew. This is not fun. This is going to take some getting used to. Is my music not playing anymore? It's not. There we go. I'm sure once I get into the hang of it, like the flow of it, it'll be a little easier. But, oh, rain's here as well. 6 people are going to be mad at me. I'm going to respond to this after stream and just link the part of the video where I talked about this because I don't feel like typing all that out right now. Get rid of the dumbass splats feature. Let's open this up. I don't care, it's low probability. It tanks FPS, somehow raises my ping. No one only ever makes my experience so much worse. At the very least, remove it from ranked. Don't worry about that, oddball. Cheese hates MLTP. Yep, that's it. She's the longest serving commissioner. Hates MLTP. With this here, oddball, don't put a push in because Bash actually has something for this in progress. So I made a decision on this one because many people are against this. This is a thing that people have complained about for a long time. I have been pretty hard set on not removing it from the game. And the reason for that is because I think that we lose a little bit of identity if we start to just make everything super clean cut, pure, whatever. That said, it is super annoying to have this happen to you. I am fully on board with this not being as disruptive as it is. So my solution is to allow this to continue to happen at the same frequency that it already happens, which is very, very low, but just have the splats fade out in like 4 or 5 seconds. So you get the thing where it's like, what the heck is this? Oh my God. But then it's just gone in a couple of seconds. And that was why I mentioned earlier in the stream that Bash found that issue with splats not fading. This is how we found that issue, because he was looking into this for me and realized that we had that problem that's existed for about a year now. So this is going to be fixed because it's actually in progress right now, but it's not going to go away entirely. So this is not a bug report. This is a feature request, and it is in progress. The next release will include a fix to this Easter egg, which will have the splats fade away in a few seconds rather than removing the feature entirely. And then this is so funny to me. It's just chaos. All right, let's copy a link to this. And then I think we have a ticket for this somewhere. 1 billion sliders and checkboxes. Yes. I think there is a ticket for like a slider for how long the splats last. Yeah, here it is. Add a profile setting to customize length of splat display time. This might be worth sending to Bash just in case. Let me copy that for later. Oh, sorry, it completely hid this with the Discord. There it is. Custom length display time splats. Anyway, back to Discord. Almost done with the requests. We have a quick feature building session, so we're not going long today. Put TagPro music on Spotify. That's an interesting question. I don't know if we have the ability to do that. I don't know a lot about Spotify, though. Does anybody here have any experience with something like this? Spotify stuff? For starters, there is the TagPro Music GitHub. I know that they're not looking for that, but I should link it just for posterity, which is this site here. If you don't know what this is, just Google TagPro Music and it should pop up. Yeah, that's my question, Flies. I don't know if we actually like. It's hard to say that we don't own the songs because they're like public, I guess. It's a tricky thing. Like TagPro is such a unique situation of being this aggregation of so many individuals' personal time, personal projects into a thing that we all just kind of enjoy together. That it's so hard to say that we do or don't own certain assets, or even though we're using them. You put a song on Spotify through CD Baby. Yeah, so for songs, Grant, that's a good point. For songs that we have received more recently, we did start to say, like, okay, we have the ability to do whatever we want with this song now because we're putting it on the site. But all of these songs that existed before the Future Group really existed didn't come with any assurances. Like there was no, it was Wild West, which is fine. That was kind of part of the appeal of the site at the time. But we don't really have any sort of path to saying that we do or don't have the rights to these songs. Commercial license, yeah. I don't know. And the other trickier part of it is it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we're not making money off these things. Like even if a thing generates money, the money just goes back into the game. So it's like, do we have more wiggle room to just use these things because we're not actually profiting off of them? But it's still a little morally ambiguous because you're still making money off of it, regardless of what you decide to do with it. Money is being made off of that work. So I don't know. It's worth having a conversation about for sure. For now, I think I'm just going to link this. This is a conversation that will need to happen with the steering committee to determine if we have the rights to even do this and how we would go about it. In the meantime, all TagPro songs are available here, which updates and maintained daily. I'm going to mark this as under review because I don't actually know where we're going to go with that. That'll work for now. I think your Discord section in OBS is on top of the chat overlay, which might make it harder to follow in the VOD. Oh no! Is that a thing I can fix? All right. Aha! I fixed it. Thank you, Grant, for that. Just had to drag it into a different... Yeah. Okay. For those who haven't seen the site, it's just this. There's just a white page. You're not missing anything. I think that is the last of the feedback things that we got. Oh, yeah, this one, I'll answer that one after. So yeah, that's everything there. So that brings us to the end of feedback. That was a good chunk of time today. We got about 20 minutes left, which is probably more than enough time for what we're going to work on. Any other questions about feedback stuff? Are we all ready to move on? Where did my third window go? There it is. Make sure nobody else claims them. Yeah, I mean, I have not leaked the flares. My leak for flares, MC, is that there are animals in some of the flares. Some, not all. Just some. There was a burst of new players yesterday. I did see that. There was an uptick in account creation, which was nice to see. Not sure how many of them have actually stuck around. But anyway, feature building. I was reading through the old suggestions tab on the Discord just because we were moving away from it and I wanted to see if there was anything worth grabbing real quick. And I came across a post that I thought was pretty funny and I wanted to explore it a little bit. And that post was an image that I'm going to put in front of us now. Oh, it's negative color. I'm just going to put Discord back on for a sec. It was balldle. And it was a little, like a daily TagPro puzzle, is what they called it, where you have a little map and you have some sort of obstacle or challenge that you have to complete and a timer for how long it took you to do it. And it's adorable. I don't know. I feel like there's something worth exploring here. So I want to explore it a little bit and see if there's maybe something viable here, because some sort of daily challenge would be really cool. So with that in mind, I want to talk through some of the pros and cons, some of the options that we have, and then kind of what the actual goal of something like this would be to decide if it's something we would want to add in the future. So we have about 20 minutes for this. We'll give it a go. And if you have thoughts, again, I'm doing most of this on my feet. This is not something I have planned ahead of time other than the topics. So I might go down the wrong path here. Feel free to correct me and we'll see what happens. But considerations before anything else. More broad than that would be needs to be accessible to players of all skill levels. Needs to be non-repetitive. Like it can't feel like you just did the same challenge. Infinite attempts, yes. Scoreboard, question mark, and that would be more aligned with the time trials feature. So Mars ball golf, yeah. We're not going to go down the path of actual things you could make because I think that's a pretty Wild West prompt, and I like it, but it's not what we're focusing on right now. But yeah, that was where I was about to get oddball, was who is making these and how frequently can they actually do that? I know that Electro has made like map shell generators, could those potentially yield or potentially automate challenges? I'd say probably not, but good to explore anyway. My next question is a pretty big one, and it kind of decides how the rest of this would look as well. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Do we have this as a real-time, you are on a map and you are trying to play TagPro thing? Or do you make it more of a puzzle game almost? And what I mean by that is, instead of, say, bring the ball to the flag tile kind of challenge, do you say you have 3 seconds worth of key presses and you have to figure out how to maneuver it? Because my concern with challenges like the one that's in front of us right now is that if you are very, very good at this game, some of these might be relatively trivial for you. Boosting straight up from the bottom for someone who's been playing this game for 10 years, not really that much of a challenge, right? Boosting through those bombs, you've done it 100 times in various settings. Yeah, it might take you a couple tries, but it's not really engaging or exciting for you to do that. Whereas if you're a new player, yes, that's a hard thing to do. It's hard to line up, get the texture pack right, and make sure that your ball is in line with the lines and everything like that. Fine. I worry that we have such a wide skill disparity in the community that a challenge that is purely mechanical focused is impossible to actually toe the line for, because you're never going to make something that is challenging for experienced players but still fun for brand new players. But if you added in some sort of constraint, like an arm behind the back mechanic, where, as I mentioned before, you say that you have 3 seconds of key presses, or maybe you can only change direction 5 times or something like that. Like, do you add in a challenge that limits the ability for experienced players to perform as they're used to playing and kind of force them back down into that new player situation where it's still TagPro, it's still something that they can do and get better at, but it's not exactly the same as playing a game? Is that making sense, the point that I'm trying to make? So I just wanted to consider that before we really went down the path of what is it? Like you just need to know mechanical versus restricted mechanics. Not mechanical. One-to-one TagPro mechanics versus restricted mechanics. X number of seconds of key press. I'm going to make these bullet points. X direction changes. Do you, like Lydia was saying, illuminate limited parts of the map? Because I'm thinking about Wordle as well. And when you think about Wordle, obviously it's very popular. Obviously it's a very easy thing to pick up on because you're just making words. But there is a mixture between skill and luck in that game. And I use the word skill somewhat broadly here because it's more just like a vocabulary thing. But like the numbers and the likelihood of your next guess and all that, there is some strategy behind it. But even the best person at Wordle in the world, whoever that may be, whatever, they're still somewhat subject to a bit of random luck where their word happens to be closer or farther from the actual word. So in TagPro, a game that is at its core relatively non-RNG focused, we try to remove a lot of those random variables. If you press a key, a certain thing happens. There's no random exploding elements or random moving spikes, if you will. It's all you do a thing, other people do a thing, whoever does the right thing ends up on top. So it's hard to justify some sort of random luck, but that random luck component is what makes it a little bit more approachable for new players, because you might be very, very new to Wordle and you get it right on the second guess. It's not because you're very good at this, you just got lucky, but it's still fun to say, hey, look at me, I got it on the second guess. Like, would you want something similar to that in this TagPro mechanic that allows people to feel like they did something even if they got a little bit lucky in the process? I like the idea, Lydia, of messing with settings. I think that's an interesting idea. And that would somewhat balance the scales a little bit. I think that still tips in the favor of skilled players. Like even with like a high acceleration, you're still going to pick up on that quicker if you are used to, like if you've played the game for a long time, you're used to a very specific acceleration. You know what it feels like when you're going a little bit faster. So I like that idea. I think it could go a little bit farther maybe. Invisible elements is RNG. I think Josh's turn-based thing is worth exploring as well. I don't know how that would work necessarily, but yeah, so I think, Josh, you're actually thinking along the lines of what I was saying here. Because if you do turn-based, you can't do turn-based and still be TagPro, right? You would make a different game, which might be fun. But if you're moving one tile at a time, it doesn't really... Like that's not the... You made a puzzle, which is fine. You made a different puzzle, but it's not TagPro. And so I want to be a little bit still TagPro oriented, which is where I was going with this here. But I see your point where it should be a little... I like Liddy's thing about the randomization as well. So, sorry, invisible elements as well. Hidden grav wells. Like, is there some sort of exploration component where you kind of like shoot yourself off into the void and then you see some of the map up here and then maybe you have to guess where to boost based on what you've seen kind of thing, like almost like a Rube Goldberg machine where it's like you are trying to figure out what direction do you have to boost in or what angle do you have to take or what wall do you have to hit, and then your key presses are disabled and the rest of the map kind of happens, but it started somewhat randomly in where you chose to boost. So maybe you get a little bit of a preview of like the bottom row of tiles and you know that it's like a 45 and a 90 and there's a bomb, but you don't know what else is beyond that. And maybe if you boost into that void, now all of a sudden a bunch of things happen and you have a better idea of where to go. Ice Plat, thank you very much for... Oh, you did the 69 thing again, didn't you? You fucker. I should have known. I should have known. So now that I've gone down that ramble, tangent, whatever you want to call it, is that something that could be randomly generated? So if we did a hidden map, let's make a different bullet point for this. And if I'm losing people or they hate what I'm saying, please speak up. Semi-hidden map with a few elements visible. Boosting past a yellow line or something disables all key presses, and the rest of the map happens according to normal physics. After each attempt, more of the map is illuminated based on the path traveled by the ball, which can inform the next attempt decision for where to boost. This is based on Dingbat's mock-up. Yeah, this is based on this image here that Dingbat made, which is kind of like, so in what I'm describing here, you would take this example and you would say that maybe there is a shadow starts here. So you see the bottom half of two bombs. You're here to keep me smiling. It's working, Ice Plat. You always make me smile. So you've got your bombs kind of half covered. So you know that there are bombs up there, but you don't really know anything else. So the RNG part of it is that there's a big unknown up here. So anyone who's good or bad, whatever, isn't going to know what gets up there until they boost in a way that allows them to get far enough to see what goes on over there. And so the skilled players who maybe know not to boost straight into the bottom of the bomb are going to gain a little bit more information by getting a little bit farther. But the lucky players who just happen to boost straight up through these bombs could also end up performing quite well because they ended up where they were supposed to be. So I think that kind of addresses the point that I was trying to make of balancing a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill. And it should be somewhat reproducible if this is just like a random assortment of elements up there. As long as it's possible to do, you could just have a random map generator that puts together 1,000 combinations of things, and then we just have a testing committee that as soon as they can finish one of them at all, if it's possible, that goes into a pool of challenges for the day. And maybe we find a formula that works well. You could add in other things like your hidden elements, or I don't know, Mars balls, gravity wells, whatever you want to do. But I think that all kind of rests on the decision of the unknown. And I think I like where that landed, actually. You could turn off arrow keys after hitting a boost or past a certain point, so wherever you go, that's where you end up. Yep, Liddy, I'm fully on board with that. What I'm thinking is, as I said here, boosting, like as soon as you go past a certain line, like maybe you have a line right here, as soon as you go past that, your key presses are disabled. So you start how it goes, you decide where you aim, but as soon as you pass that point, it's all just the physics. You're beholden to whatever decision you have already made. What if the puzzle was more like you have limited map elements to put down in certain orders to get the ball from A to B? So it's a map making puzzle more than gameplay. That's an interesting one. Let's explore that. Alternate idea. Map editor esque display. Player is at the start. Needs to put down tiles from a preset pool to get to the end of whatever the challenge is. So my first issue with this is not that I don't like it. I actually like it a lot. Is this more of like a Mario Maker though? Like, are we just recreating Mario Maker if we go down this path? I don't know necessarily how this would work in a non-gravity setting. I think it would be kind of what I was describing, but instead of an unknown up there, it's nothing, and you are putting down the elements. You're still boosting past a line to get to like the end point. If you want to get to an end zone tile, you're putting down, you have 9 blocks, put them down in a certain way, take a boost in a certain way through the thing that you've made. How do you... Lady, no links. Sorry, I have to figure out how to disable that. It gets removed. I don't really care if you link. It keeps removing them. I don't know if that's something I did or something that Twitch does, but just remove the IO. What was I saying a minute ago? Oh yeah, the reproducible part I think is a little bit concerning with this, Josh, because if you're giving someone a blank slate and saying you have these tiles, get from here to here, how many times can you do that before you're just doing the same challenge over and over again, right? You'd need to have some sort of shape, like a mini golf course, where you have to get around like a corner or get through a certain thing, and you've got your elements that help you with that. But shapes. Let me look it up real quick and see if I can put this on stream. Factory automation game. Is this what you're talking about? It looks cool. I don't know if this is really... Oh, you place elements to complete a task. Okay, is that like a daily challenge thing, or is it like a set number of them? Because my concern, the reason I'm asking this is that even for the initial prompt, my concern is that... Oh, sorry, I keep forgetting to remove the Discord overlay. My concern is that you have a challenge and you do this for a year, and then after 365 days, everyone goes, all right, like we get it. Like we've tried them all, like I'm bored, and it kind of ends. Like you need something that can continue after you've started it for an indefinite amount of time. And maybe it gets replaced with something better or different, but it can't be something that gets old quickly. I don't know. I like Josh's idea too. I'm just trying to figure out how it actually works. Hey. I will find you, iSplat. I will find you. And I will say mean things to your face. What I'm wrestling with in my head right now is there a middle ground where what I'm talking about and what Josh is talking about can both exist? And I'm not sure that there is. The other part of it is how much time are people willing to spend on these? Like if it's a putting down elements to then boost into them, to then change where the elements are to then boost again, I worry that that's a little bit too complicated almost for, like, how approachable is that if you're someone who's played TagPro a couple of times? If we're comparing, you join into a map and the goal is to just boost in a certain direction over and over until it works, and you're comparing that with join into an empty map and you're putting down tiles to then boost into them over and over, readjusting the tiles until you get them in the right orientation. I think that the second one is a better challenge. I think it sounds like a more engaging thing if you really want to sit down and kind of like mentally work through the physics of it. But I don't know if that's necessarily what it should be, right? You would want the easier, like, I'm going to keep coming back to Wordle because that's kind of the inspiration here. You join up, you can do it for 10 seconds in the morning. Maybe it takes you 5 minutes to get it done, but you're not really thinking that hard in the process. Like, it's a kind of mindless thing that you can do to kind of get your routine going. And I worry that if we are forcing you to really sit down and think about all this, it's not going to be as appealing for a broader player base. And so maybe it's like I'm wondering if there's some way to do both, where it's like Monday through Friday you do the simpler one, and then Saturday, Sunday you have the heavier challenges, and that way you don't think... I think it's very good to compare. Like I was talking about, the mixture between RNG and skill is still very relevant for TagPro. I think that having it be somewhat simple but still forcing you to think a little bit is also important. It's not in a sense of having you pick a word, obviously, but I do think there are a lot of comparisons actually that are worth making. All right, we're down to 2 more minutes. Damn, time got away from me this time. This stream, sorry. I think there's something here. I think that I like mixing the two so it doesn't get too monotonous. But the idea of like every 10th day maybe you have like the harder challenge, and then you mix it in with the regular challenges, I think that might help. And you can add in other challenges too, like maybe you do a gravity one. So it doesn't need to be the same thing over and over again. I worry that the more complicated it becomes, the less likely people are to actually do it. Because I don't play TagPro every day. I don't log on and play games every day. Would I be more likely to log on if this challenge existed? Maybe. I don't know. I need to see how much fun it actually is. It's a bit of a risk. It's not a bad risk, though, but it is a risk. Okay. I think I've said my piece on that. Let's do Wii Sports Resort. I'm on it. All right. I think I'm going to leave it at that. That was enough of a thought experiment for me. So thank you for tolerating that. But to wind things down here, if you have any questions about TagPro that you would like me to talk about, there is a form in the chat of this stream and also in the comments section on Reddit and the description on YouTube. So if you have anything that you would like me to talk about on one of these streams, feel free to fill that form out and I will get to it as soon as possible. And for next week, hopefully we'll have some more updates on the shop. Hopefully some testing is going to be scheduled by next week. I'll let you guys know how that developer meeting that's happening this Sunday goes. And we'll see what we're ready for from there. So your addiction level is going up due to... Yeah, Liddy, you have an insane number of games, dude. I got to say, I'm kind of scared. Kind of scared. Don't be afraid to take a day off. Take a little breather. But thank you everyone for tuning in. I always appreciate the thoughts and feedback. That's how we do this. So if you are around next week, I'd love to see you again. But otherwise, have a nice rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And I will see you all later.